Well, a major bust on the dark web. The largest and longest running illegal marketplace in all the world is shut down. Officials in Germany made that announcement today. The operation part of a months-long effort with the U.S. Justice Department.
In early April, hackers invaded the systems of National Public Data, a major data broker, and stole a staggering amount of personal details, almost 3 billion records to be exact. This haul included not just names and addresses, but also the social security numbers and birth dates of nearly every American, impacting millions more in the UK and Canada. This breach has left an unimaginable number of people vulnerable to identity theft and financial fraud. Could your information be among the 3 billion leaked? Join us as we delve into what could be the consequences. The dawn of digital chaos. The first reports of this breach came from the LA Times, which revealed that an unknown hacker linked to a group called US DoD had made these sensitive documents public. Now, this critical information is freely circulating online, where it could be misused in many harmful ways, potentially impacting millions of lives. When we talk about data breaches, they usually involve thousands or maybe millions of records. But this one is on a completely different scale. The sheer size of the breach is staggering. While browsing a notorious hacker forum on the dark web, a post titled National Public Data Full DB 2024 was discovered. It claimed to contain the personal data of nearly 3 billion people. To give you an idea of its size, the data file alone is 277 gigabytes uncompressed. That's the storage space needed for several high-resolution video games. Initially, the hackers wanted to sell this enormous database for $3.5 million. But in a surprising move, either out of generosity or to build their reputation, they decided to give it away for free to others in the dark web community. The leaked information is organized like a digital phone book, but with much more sensitive data, including social security numbers. The exposure of social security numbers is particularly concerning. In the US, these numbers are vital for many financial activities, such as applying for loans or opening bank and credit accounts. They're also used in everyday situations, like verifying identities over the phone with various service providers. Because of this, the leaked data is a goldmine for criminals looking to commit identity theft. With this information, they could wreak havoc on people's lives in many ways, such as redirecting utility services, opening fake accounts, or carrying out SIM swapping attacks, where a criminal takes control of a victim's phone number to intercept text messages and calls, including those with security codes for online accounts. But this isn't the worst part. The source of this massive data set, National Public Data, mainly provides APIs for background check services. They gather their data by scraping both public and private resources, and by purchasing information from other data brokers, without the consent of the people whose data they're collecting. They then compile this information into easily accessible XML APIs, which online services use to perform background checks. Often these services advertise themselves as free, but charge users at the last step. Even though the database is massive, navigating through it isn't easy. Imagine trying to go through a digital encyclopedia the size of a major video game, hosted on a slow server probably located overseas. Accessing it requires going through the Onion network, which is known for its sluggish and roundabout routes. An initial look at the data, though not exhaustive, suggests that while the breach is huge, it might not actually affect the full 3 billion people as claimed. But the problems don't stop there. This breach shows just how fragile digital privacy can be and how severe the consequences of such breaches are. It highlights the urgent need for stricter security measures and more ethical practices in how personal data is handled and shared. While some might see a twisted convenience in having such a deep local database to search, the potential for harm is far greater than any benefits it might offer. This breach serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing challenges we face in protecting our personal information in today's digital world. As we reflect on this, it becomes clear that we need to rethink how our data is managed and protected. The sheer scale of this breach should be a wake-up call for everyone, individuals, companies, and governments alike. We all have a role to play in ensuring that our personal information is kept safe and secure. The consequences of failing to do so are just too great to ignore. The person who found this data decided to analyze a small portion of it, taking care to protect privacy by turning the identifiable details into a mix of unreadable characters and numbers, so no one could figure out who the data belonged to. To begin, the person loaded the data into a program called LibreOffice, organizing it into neatly labeled columns. These columns had titles like ID, first name, last name, and other important details that came directly from the hacked database. However, all the data was hashed, meaning it was transformed into a set of random-looking digits to keep the real information hidden. Hashing is a way to secure data by turning readable information into a fixed string of numbers and letters, making it nearly impossible to understand without the right decryption keys. This means that even if someone saw the data, it would be practically useless without those keys. Looking at the data, the person noticed that there were 8 records, each one masked to hide personal details. The records were organized in a way that showed patterns, like the same hashed values appearing for first and last names in different entries. This suggested that the data might include duplicates or closely related information. The idea behind hashing is simple. The same input always gives the same output, but even a tiny change in the input completely changes the output. This makes it a powerful tool for protecting personal data because it's almost impossible to reverse engineer the original information. As the person dug deeper into the data, they saw some consistency across the records. For example, while the addresses varied a bit, possibly showing different residences or mistakes in data entry, the contact information, like phone numbers and emails, stayed the same. This was an important observation because it showed that the same person's details were entered multiple times, possibly due to repeated transactions or updates over time. But this wasn't the worst part. As they continued to explore, the person found that all the entries had the same date of birth and social security numbers. This was a stark reminder of how serious this breach could be, with the potential to cause real harm to people. There were also patterns in the geographical data. Some records had unique addresses, while others shared the same location, possibly indicating shared properties or family accounts. This careful examination was part of a larger effort to understand just how big and damaging this data breach might be. Even though the initial analysis suggested a lot of duplicate records, the actual number of unique individuals affected was still likely in the hundreds of millions, far less than the billions initially feared, but still alarmingly high. The broader implications of this data breach are deeply concerning. The exposure of sensitive information could lead to serious consequences, like identity theft. Criminals could use this information to open fake accounts, take out loans, or even steal someone's digital identity. This realization led to discussions about how to protect oneself, like monitoring credit reports, setting up fraud alerts, and being more careful about what personal information is shared online. Furthermore, this breach led to legal action. A class action lawsuit was filed against National Public Data for failing to protect this enormous amount of personal data and for the questionable ways they gathered the information in the first place. The case highlighted the urgent need for stronger data protection laws and more ethical handling of personal information. It also underscored the importance of companies using strong security measures and regulators enforcing strict rules to prevent such breaches from happening again. As the person wrapped up their analysis, the fallout from the breach was still unfolding. It was clear that this event was going to spark ongoing conversations about privacy, security, and how to balance the usefulness of data with the need to protect individuals. The breach not only exposed the technical weaknesses of the systems involved, but also brought to light the huge responsibility that companies have in safeguarding the trust of the public. This incident serves as a strong reminder of the many challenges in data security and the need for everyone to work together to strengthen our digital defenses. Only by doing so can we ensure that personal information remains safe and private in our increasingly connected world. But let's think about what lies beyond what we usually see online: the expansive world of the deep web. In the early days of the internet, a hidden part of the online world began to take shape, far beyond what most people see or even know exists. This vast, unseen space is called the deep web. It's a place where information flows freely, often without the restrictions we're used to on the regular web. Unlike the parts of the internet you visit every day, like social media or news sites, the deep web is like an iceberg. Only a small part of it is visible and easily accessible. The deep web is a massive store of information that doesn't show up in regular search engines like Google. You can't find it just by typing something into a search bar. Instead, it's a complex, shifting space where a lot of data is stored, data that isn't meant to be easily found. But the deep web isn't just about hidden information. It's also a place where people can access things that might be restricted or censored elsewhere. To understand the deep web, we have to go back to the beginning of the internet. In the 1960s, during the Cold War, the US Department of Defense created a network called ARPANET. This was designed to keep communication going, even if there was a nuclear attack. Little did they know, they were laying the foundation for the internet we use today. As the internet grew, so did the deep web, a huge part of the network that isn't indexed by search engines, making it almost invisible to the everyday user. But this wasn't the worst part. While most of the deep web is just data that isn't indexed, like private databases or academic research, there's also a darker side. This is where the dark web comes in, a small, hidden part of the deep web that's deliberately kept secret and is only accessible with special software. This area of the web is known for its anonymity, which can be used for good or for bad. To get a clearer picture, think of the internet as an ocean. The surface, where you do most of your browsing, is the surface web. This is where you find sites like Facebook, Amazon, and Wikipedia. Below that is the deep web, full of data that isn't meant to be found by everyone, like your online banking details, private forums, or academic journals. And then, deeper still, is the dark web. This is a place where privacy and anonymity reign, often used by people who need to protect their identities, like journalists or whistleblowers. But it's also used for illegal activities like selling drugs or stolen information. Now that you have an idea of what the deep web is and how it's structured, let's take a look at how it started and how it has evolved. Back in the 1990s, when the internet was just starting to become the powerful tool it is today, the deep web was mostly made up of things like university databases and government records. These were places that regular search engines didn't touch. As the internet grew, so did the deep web, but it remained largely unnoticed by the general public until the early 2000s. The turning point came with the creation of Tor, a network designed to help people stay anonymous online. Tor, which stands for the Onion Router, was originally developed by the US Navy, but it quickly became a tool for anyone who wanted to keep their online activities private. Tor made it possible to access the dark web, and suddenly this hidden part of the internet started getting more attention. But here's where things get more complicated. While the deep web and dark web can be used for good, like protecting free speech in oppressive countries, they also have a dark side. The same anonymity that keeps people safe from censorship can also shield criminals. This part of the web has become a hub for illegal activities, from drug trafficking to the sale of stolen data. And think about this. What if your personal details are out there on the dark web right now? The risks of anonymity. Tor is a tool that helps protect people's privacy online by hiding their locations and browsing habits. It also lets users access special websites, known as onion sites, that you can't reach with regular web browsers. These onion sites are a big part of what we call the dark web. While Tor is great for staying anonymous, it's not completely foolproof. For example, there are risks with something called exit nodes. These are the last stops your data makes before it reaches its final destination. If a hacker controls an exit node, they could see and even change the information passing through it. They might not be able to trace it back to you directly, but they can see what websites you're visiting. Another risk is a type of attack called a traffic correlation attack. If someone controls both the first and last stops of your Tor connection, they might be able to connect the dots and figure out who you are. Law enforcement agencies have used these vulnerabilities to track illegal activities on the dark web. In fact, they sometimes run their own nodes to gather information. But this isn't the worst part. It's important to know that using Tor doesn't automatically put you in danger. You can take extra steps, like using a VPN or being cautious with your browsing habits, to lower these risks. Even with its potential vulnerabilities, Tor is still a powerful tool for people who want to keep their online activities private and access information freely on the internet. It's a reminder that while technology can help us stay safe, our own actions and knowledge are just as important in protecting our privacy. When people talk about the deep web and the dark web, they often sound mysterious and scary. But in reality, these parts of the internet are home to a wide range of content. The deep web, for instance, includes anything that search engines like Google don't or can't index. This could be anything from academic resources like library databases and research papers to private discussion forums that prefer to stay out of the public eye. Many businesses and organizations use the deep web to host private networks and customer databases. But when we go deeper into the dark web, the content changes dramatically. The dark web is known for its anonymity, which makes it a marketplace for all sorts of illegal activities. But why are so many resources hidden from regular search engines? To understand this, we need to look at how search engines work. Search engines like Google use special programs called crawlers to browse the web. These crawlers follow links from one page to another, gathering information that can later be searched. However, many web pages are out of reach for these crawlers. Some are protected by passwords, some require payment to access, and others are part of networks like Tor that need special software to view. All of these are part of the deep web. But this isn't the whole story. Although it might seem like the web we see through Google is huge, we're actually only seeing a small fraction of it. The majority of information is hidden deep within the deep web, accessible only to those who know how to find it. But just how big is the deep web? It's hard to say for sure, but some estimates suggest it could be up to 500 times larger than the part of the web we see with regular search engines. These numbers are rough guesses because it's so difficult to measure something that's hidden by its very nature. If we go even deeper into the dark web, the size becomes even harder to pinpoint. Despite its reputation for illegal and secretive content, the dark web is actually quite small compared to the entire deep web. But its size doesn't make it any less dangerous. While the dark web can be a valuable tool for privacy and avoiding censorship, it's also a hub for illegal activities like drug sales, weapon trafficking, and the distribution of stolen data. But this isn't the end of the risks. The dark web is also a hotspot for cybercrime. It's where hackers buy and sell malware, exploit security flaws, and carry out scams. Navigating the dark web can expose users to these dangers. Even though the deep web and dark web can protect privacy, they can also threaten it. Personal data, like credit card numbers, are often bought and sold on the dark web. But how does this data end up there in the first place? Usually it's the result of data breaches where hackers break into a company's systems and steal user information. The stolen data is then sold on the dark web for a profit. The dark web, while smaller, teems with both opportunities and risks. How far should privacy extend if it shields illegal activities? Like, comment, and subscribe for more insights and join the discussion below.